My life has been cut, extended, put into slow motion, and has even used a green screen on numerous occasions to disguise itself. But first of all, let's rewind to the very first scene in my story. I was born on October 2nd, 2001, in Geneva, Switzerland. The first 4 years of my life were by far the happiest. Why? I didn't have a care in the world. As most 1 to 4-year-olds, I imagine, might be the same. Through the lens of the video camera, at that time, I was in Wonderland. Now, to me, it didn't really hurt at that time, but my parents divorced when I was 2. My parents were both longtime UN workers and both elite world travelers. They had both been to many very, I'll just say different places. They had both found great jobs in New York City when I was 6. I call this place, New York, my home. As my life went on in New York, alternating from each of their apartments from each of the weeks. 1 week at Dad's, 1 week at Mom's. They'll keep changing. Anyways, as my life went on in New York City, I asked myself, what really makes a New Yorker? The Italian gangster accent, which I find quite stereotypical, or just they're a Mets or a Yankees fan of the Subway Series for baseball, or simply just parents from the area. None of these at all. What defines home to me is a place that you love and feel comfortable living in day by day. Fast forwarding 2 years now. I was finishing up kindergarten when one day my mom came home with some news that very simply did not process into my little head. Hi, sweet love, guess what? We're moving to China. Now you're probably making assumptions to how I felt. Like maybe I jumped off the couch and asked a ton of questions. Or maybe I just started whining and crying as maybe any 6-year-old faced with this kind of change might have. But in reality, I just sat there and stared at her for what her must have seemed to be hours was only 5 to 10 minutes. After all this, I asked her, "Where is China, Mommy?" As I think most parents would in this situation, she took out a globe. First of all, showing me where we were right now. New York City, New York State, America. Second of all, showing me Geneva, Switzerland, Europe, where I've spent the first 4 years of my life in. And finally, showing me where we're going, Beijing, China. My mind marveled about how far Beijing, China is from both of these places I've only known. As a little kid, you grow up, as most little kids do, in one place, or two, as I have. These are the only places in your mind, and when you're faced with change that's far away from you, you just can't grasp the thought. I asked her if my dad was coming. There was a cold, hard no reply to me. But don't get me wrong, my mom is a very nice person, I assure you. So anyways, that night I tossed and turned in my bed, horrified by my evil thoughts of what China might look like, just as if a black and white movie was playing in my head. I couldn't visualize it, but I felt it, and it was scary. A couple months later, we left for China. I don't remember much about that 12-hour flight straight from New York, nor do I remember much about my first thoughts of the airport. It's ginormous. I don't even remember anything about the first taxi ride from the airport to our nice little apartment in the heart of Beijing. I had my first school year at the 3E International School. I will always remember some very good friends I had there, while I was challenged and tested during my Chinese studies, which lasted 5 hours a day. The other half, the English studies, I wasn't being pushed that much. Nothing against 3E though. So, this is what brought me to think that there needs to be a change. This is what brought me to come to WAB, the Western Academy of Beijing. There are great teachers here. It's great education. I cannot put it any simpler than that. Now, WAB is a one-to-one school, so it allows the youth to explore technology. One Friday afternoon in 3S, the class I was in the 3rd grade, Jose Tumba, or as the students know him as Mr. Tumba, came in to do a little lesson on film editing software that's simple and easy to use. I remember sitting at my desk, watching him present iMovie and all this kind of things. My mind was marveling about all the kinds of things I could do with this. The possibilities were endless, of course, with filmmaking. So I couldn't wait to try it out. I grabbed my bag from my locker, ran on the bus, and the bus ride was only 30 minutes. Of course, it seemed like hours. I arrived home, got to my computer, and made films right away. 5 of them, very random. The first 2 just talking about my day at school, the other 2 just marveling how beautiful the couch was. So after doing this a while, I realized I had a special talent. Grade 4 was by far the best school year of my life. I had all my friends in the same class, and I had the greatest teacher, Kelsey Lewis, who I knew if I had any problems, I could go right to her because her voice was so soothing and she could fix them. So, after making some more films in grade 4, my talent became known to Greg McIsaac, or as we know him as Mr. Mac. He's the school's videographer and loves film. He brought me under his wing and told me about the Flux Film Festival that was happening at the Beijing City International School. I saw this as a gateway to seal my name as a filmmaker. So after many lunchtime discussions, we had an idea for a project. Now, as you probably know, China as a whole is in the midst of transformations that are historic, and I consider myself lucky to live in a city that is living through these transformations. So me and Mr. Mac decided to make a film that would chronicle these changes. And of course, what better place to start than the hutongs? Now, hutongs, in case you don't know, are little alleyway buildings around the outskirts of Beijing that were built many, many years ago. And they're being collapsed and toppled down to make space for high-rises. After going on many hutong tours and many other tours around shopping malls and high-rises, the ones that replaced hutongs, I just took the footage. It's simple as that. So, after all of this film does not have any text, commentary, or voice whatsoever. I believe the images and the music can tell a story better than any voice could. So after taking all the footage, going around many weekend tours, I just made the film. Mr. Mac kindly provided me with music that was used and created by a high schooler a few years before to make an award-winning film called Trainwreck. What can I say? It worked out perfectly. The award ceremony was held on a Sunday while I was actually with my mom on a business trip in North Korea. I came to school on Monday with a very pleasant surprise on my desk, a little orange clapper, which I have with me right now, in fact. For me, it was simply overcoming a hurdle in the running track of life. This running track is long, and there are many hurdles on it. This is the first one. You can call it whatever you want, though, maybe even a happy ending. It also made me believe in miracles as well. But now, with great pride, will I now present to you the 2012 Flux Film Festival Award winner for Best Documentary in the Elementary School category, Then and Now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, whether you're watching this on an iPhone, an iPad, a computer, or if you're just in the audience like you might be right now, I want you to take anything in this little talk. It's that anything can be overcome if you put your mind and heart to do so. So, I do believe the prologue of this film is now complete. On to the next scene, shall we? Lights, camera, action. Thank you all very much.